Have you ever looked at yourself and wondered, when have I become this person? Maybe you struggle to trust people. Maybe you're always working, always planning, always preparing for the worst. People call it maturity, discipline, or even strength. But what if those weren't actually personality traits? What if they were survival skills? Sometimes we don't become who we want to be. We become who we had to be. This is the psychology behind the person you had to become. Hi, my name is Claire, also known as Clarity, and welcome back to another video. Here you'll gain a little bit more clarity in every single one of my videos. The first thing I want to say is that survival changes your personality, especially when you're very young. A lot of us go through a lot when we're very young, like trauma, abuse, or something that causes some form of PTSD. And one thing I want us to understand is that shapes and alters our personality. So here's an example. Today, I'm very mature for my age, and a lot of people say that. However, if you look back into my past, you can see how this developed. Basically, when I was young, there were times where I had to act like the adult in the situation, even though I was technically a kid and I didn't have to think the way I was thinking. I was kind of forced into a mindset of an adult, even though I was very young. There were times that, our parents weren't home and I had to kind of take care of everyone in the house. My older sister was sick with COVID. This was when COVID had just hit. So she was really, really, really sick. She couldn't even leave her bedroom. I couldn't even see her because she had to be isolated. So I was kind of taking care of the house. And there were times where I was like, okay, I have to make food for everyone. Okay, listen, this is very embarrassing, but I was very young, okay? I remember going to the kitchen and seeing pasta and radishes. And basically I was like, okay, I'm gonna make something with this. So I made pasta, I boiled the water, I put no salt. I needed the basics of everything. So I made I literally just cooked the pasta and I got the radishes and I literally just chopped them. And then we ate the radishes raw with the spaghetti, like the pasta actually. It wasn't even spaghetti, it was pasta. But when you're very young and you are put in situations where you have to adapt quickly, you have to survive, that's all you're thinking about, your personality changes because you think, who do I have to become in this scenario for me to survive? Who do I have to become and adapt to in this situation so I can be safe and okay or protect the people around me? That's unfortunately something that happens to many people, especially nowadays. I see that a lot. It's very sad, but it's true. If you see, there are a lot of young kids who are growing up too early or acting like adults because they think, hey, who do I have to become in this situation? A lot of kids nowadays go through hyper responsibility. They have to mature really quickly. They have to care and worry about the people around them when they themselves are underage and are literal kids. That's something I experienced, so I know what it feels like. Sometimes what looks like personality is actually an adaptation. Another thing I want to make clear is that survival never leaves room for procrastination. I think it's important for us to discern the difference between survival-driven action and a healthy motivation. Examples of these things are like someone working 2 jobs, a teenager helping to raise their siblings, a student that is determined to change their life, or a person leaving an abusive environment. When your survival depends on moving forward, procrastination becomes a luxury that you don't feel like you have. That doesn't necessarily mean that people who procrastinate are, have a luxury or are privileged or lazy. Many people procrastinate because of things like ADHD, depression, burnouts, or even challenges, like daily life challenges. But there are moments in life where urgency honestly pushes you into an action because the consequences feel like immediate. Many people become disciplined because they feel like failure isn't an option. And I can really resonate with that, honestly. The third topic I want to talk about is when survival becomes your identity. The thing is, what happens when the danger is gone? What happens when you don't have to survive anymore? What happens when you and your body realize that you're in an environment where you don't have to be surviving or you don't have to be constantly in this rush? Why is it so hard to rest? Here's the thing, and I talk about this a lot. When your brain goes through a situation where it has to be in survival mode for a really long time, it learns to adapt to that lifestyle. Therefore, it literally becomes something that your brain can't let go of. So no matter where you are, you will start to be in survival mode all the time. Here's a perfect example. A child that's growing up in survival mode constantly. They have to grow up quickly. They have to protect their siblings, or they have to work really hard, or they have to mature really bad, really fast. And then you put them like in their like teenage years, almost like they're almost an adult. You put them in a healthy household where they can grow and flourish at the normal pace in a healthy way. They will start to panic because that's not what their brain is used to, and therefore the brain will ask, what is going on? Why is everything okay? It scares the brain because you're not used to it. Therefore, it's very natural for the brain to feel guilty while it's resting, to struggle a lot to accept help, or it's always waiting for the next problem or the next conflict or the next moment where it's gonna have to work to survive. The habit that once protected you can become the habit that is now keeping you trapped. My point for this video is that you don't have to hate the person you become. You don't have to hate the version of you that was only trying to protect you in that moment, or that was only trying to make you feel okay or alive. One question I want you to ask yourself is, does this person who protects me have to be with me all the time? Healing isn't becoming something completely different. It's deciding which survival habits you still actually need and which ones you can finally let go of. Maybe you've spent years and years of your life wondering why you're different, why you grew up too fast, why you're so mature, why you always feel responsible for everything. Maybe there was nothing wrong with you, but maybe you just became the person that you had to become to survive the circumstances in that time. The beautiful thing I want to say is that survival shaped you, but it doesn't have to define every chapter that comes next. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you could reflect on anything and learn anything. The question I have for this week is, what is something that you could do today to live life, not survive it? Comment down below what you guys think. I love you guys so much, and I see you guys next week. Bye!